guys, how are you doing? It's your teacher Diana here. I hope that Thursday is bringing you only good news. As for me, I can't really say that it has been the best Thursday ever, but it's going alright. It's not the best, it's not the worst, it's somewhere in the middle. I'm very happy to see many familiar faces here. Just to answer a couple of questions, Maxine was asking, can Diana actually play the piano? It's because I always choose piano covers to be, my waiting music. And the answer is yes, I can play the piano. I've played the piano ever since I was 5 years old. So yes, nearly 21 years of playing the piano. I wouldn't say that I'm exactly a genius when it comes to, any instrument really, but I think that I do have more or less adequate technical skills. So yes, that's just to answer the question. And sometimes I'm the one who's playing, and sometimes I'm just kind of allowing other people to do the job. So yes, this time it was not me, it was someone else. But I think it's a great cover, and it's a wonderful song. If you don't know, the song is I Want to Know What Love Is by The Foreigner, and I think Mariah Carey as well has a cover. Anyways, you guys, so that's that. Today I want to talk about CVs once again, and I think the last time. If you have any questions, or if you think there are any topics about CVs, interviews, workplace, anything like that, basically professional life that I haven't covered before, please do let me know. I'll very happily make a class on it. But I think that in general we have gone through the major points, what to do, what not to do during the interviews, what are your rights, basically what questions the employer can't ask you. And today we will concentrate on more like your duties, your duty towards yourself, to get a good position, basically to get the position you want to get. I'm not sure if that's always the best one out there, but if you've applied, obviously you want to also be accepted to work there. And of course, I think it's quite obvious that CVs are the first impressions that we can make, and this is why they have to be flawless. Well, possibly not flawless, but as close to that as possible. It's interesting because there are so many different kind of ideas and standards of how a good CV should look like, and the information is very contradictory sometimes. But I think that we will go with the general consensus of what a CV should look like. And I'd like to share with you some information that I have been thinking about, that I have found, and basically something I've been using for the past 5-6 years. So let's see, okay? Let's see what we have over here. Let me go to the small face mode. Right. So the most important thing always is what not to do as opposed to what to do. And yes, so let's start with the things we definitely shouldn't include in a CV. And the first one is the objective, basically what position you are applying for. The CV has to be very neutral, like nobody cares whether you are applying for an IT position, or maybe you want to be a manager or a dancer. You don't have to put the end result, the goal, on the CV. So basically, as you format the CV, there shouldn't be desired position aisle, where you will type in dancer or manager. It's obvious because you are applying for the job, so it makes only complete sense that you want that particular job. I've seen some CVs where people kind of write down what position they want, and everything is gathered and kind of circulating around that idea, but apparently it is not the best idea, because you want your CV to be a neutral document that can pretty much be sent anywhere, not only to that one particular vacancy, if that makes sense. Okay, the other thing is irrelevant work experience. Basically say you want to be a librarian, okay? So you are applying for a vacancy that's in the library. Maybe you can include some information about you being a barista, because, well, It also involves dealing with people. It can show that you are a people's person. So that's fine. It can be relevant depending on how you talk about it. But there can be some positions that are completely irrelevant. For example, you being, I don't know, a PE teacher for secondary school kids. That information has nothing to do with your current desire to work for that company or library or whatever. So you can't really confuse the CV reader too much. Everything you do, everything you write in the CV has to be there for a reason. Otherwise, it turns into clutter. And you don't want to clutter your CV or anybody's mind or your life in general. You have to be very frugal with the words, and you can't really be too wordy as well. Basically, if you can write something in 3 words, don't choose 13 words to describe the same idea. We'll talk about that a bit later. Next thing you shouldn't include are your hobbies. So hobbies, I think, they are great. Everybody wants a person who also is a well-rounded individual, who has interests and who wants to better themselves. At the same time, CV is not the place for that. I think that if you go through to the next round, aka the interview, then you might talk about your hobbies, if asked. Sometimes you might not be asked that as well because, well, depending on the interviewer, they might be interested only in your abilities and skills. So yes, hobbies, leave that for a dating site or a friendly gathering with your colleagues or whatever. And references. References in this context are basically phone numbers, addresses, and details of your current bosses, employers, colleagues, and so on. Sometimes the future employer might want a reference because they want to talk to your ex-boss or ex-colleague or somebody who can basically tell a bit more about you. But the references should not be included in your CV. That is very important because reference is something that is needed after you've been accepted. It is not something that anybody should have anything to do with before you actually have the job. So be careful with that. I know that in general people don't do that, but at the same time I've seen people put references as well, like their teacher numbers or their ex-colleague numbers. And I think, well, wow, like that is actually quite inappropriate to provide other people's personal information in a CV. That's crazy. So yes, don't do that. Don't be that person. Right. And some other things. You have to really make sure that your CV doesn't have too many words. I've mentioned that before. You have to be very frugal with the words. Nobody wants to read essays unless they want an essay, which they don't because they want a CV. You have to be very, very economical, I think is the best word, with the words. The less words on your CV and the more substance, the better. Which might sound quite difficult to achieve, but trust me, the more you practice, the more you will manage. So that's very important. You really have to kind of make the CV very readable. You know, sometimes somebody takes a piece of paper, they look at it, and they can understand everything in an instant. You want your CV to be that kind of document. You don't want somebody having to need to put their coffee down, put their oculars on, and just start, reading and trying to make some sense. You want things to be easy because everybody's super busy, nobody has time, and nobody wants to read these long-winded sentences. Next thing, you have to pay attention to the format. The way you format your document, your CV in this case. If you have chosen one type of font, stick to it. Apparently, Times New Roman, which is my favorite font, is not a good sign for a CV, as in it's not really liked by people. It's too old-fashioned. It's too retro. The best one to use is Arial. Apparently. I had no idea because I love Times New Roman, but yes, several sources have shown that Times New Roman is just old-fashioned and just outdated and nobody likes it anymore. Which is not very important, but really, if you have size 16 For a subheader, just stick to that. All subheaders should be size 16. Okay? And the last one, but definitely not the least, avoid at all costs personal pronouns such as I, me, we, us. It really, really, really can't be used in a CV because those really show opinion as opposed to facts, and nobody wants an opinion or your story. Everybody wants cold, stale facts. You know, kind of think more about bulleting as opposed to writing, I've gained so much experience working as a waiter, la la la. Nobody wants that. Just where you worked, what time, possibly the skills you acquired. That's it. So really, I, me, we, us, even like in scientific research papers, there really can't be such personal pronouns included. It makes everything much more colloquial and way less professional. So that's that, you guys. Anyways, I will now provide you with the question of the day. I will see the private members in the private community. If you are not a private member, sorry, I'll leave you for now. But if you want to become one, just go to www.englishtvlive.com and it's very easy to become one. So anyways, I will see you very soon, guys. Everybody. However, the private members, I will see you in literally 30 seconds, okay? So, bye-bye.